It wasn't until my best friend went to prison that I became aware of the plight of the incarcerated. Her heart-wrenching stories opened my eyes to a world that I did not know existed, that I had previously ignored. And why shouldn't I ignore it? Those people in that prison have nothing to do with me. I was so wrong. As a member of an enlightened society with a compassionate heart and a sense of duty instilled in me during childhood, I know that their plight definitely has to do with me. We're all connected. We're all in this soup together. And my specialty, after over 25 years and more than 10,000 hours of experience, is in physical education and performing arts for children and teens. So that is how I participate in my own tiny way to help heal the ills of a massive and complex criminal justice system. In my tiny beloved city, I share my expertise and enthusiasm with teenagers in our juvenile detention center. My friend Stacy spent 19 months in a New Jersey prison. She was an otherwise law-abiding citizen, but ended up behind bars after a chain of events that, to me, now seem somehow predestined for a higher purpose. Suffice to say, she got tangled up in a child custody dispute between her then husband and his ex-wife, and things went terribly wrong. Her felony conviction, which should have been in a civil courtroom, never a criminal one, was later overturned, but not before her life was turned upside down and inside out, and she endured horrible cruelty. Despite and because of this hellish experience, she created a phenomenal nonprofit organization for women in and leaving prison to provide assistance with transportation to parole appointments, housing, clothing, coaching for job interviews. I remember giggling at the picture of her minivan stuffed, just bursting at the seams with bras that were en route to a women's facility. They offered support in many ways because I didn't know that things like feminine hygiene products and bras are considered luxuries and not necessities when you're locked up. When she was released, she could have just walked away and never looked back. But she chose to stay and make a positive, enormous difference in the lives of thousands. Not only those women, but their families and communities as well. In so doing, she inspired me and many others. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist who survived 3 years in concentration camps during the Holocaust, wrote, "That which is to give light must endure burning." My friend exemplifies this idea. She uses her suffering to help others. Now, knowing and loving her as I do, and believing in the work she was doing, I wanted to add my light to her enormous flame and show some support for her work without having to go to New Jersey. And so I asked her what I might do here in Nevada to support the mission. And she suggested that I simply continue the work I was already doing, that the dance and gymnastics classes I was teaching were precisely the sorts of activities that would keep kids from ever needing to go to prison in the first place. So I poured myself into my work more intently than ever, but always with the idea in my mind that I would like to serve those who are caught up in the system. Several years later, I was offered an opportunity to teach in our local juvenile detention center, and I literally jumped at the chance. When I was asked to submit a proposal, I immediately decided on improvisational acting, the type made popular by the TV show Whose Line Is It Anyway? Improv, as it's known, is made up of games and structures that create scenes out of thin air, from just a few words to an hour or more of unscripted dialogue. There are no materials required. Anyone can do it, almost anywhere, and it's fun. The well-known yes and mantra of improv encourages us to seek agreement and cooperation. Now that, and really every aspect of improv, lends easily to our lives. Improv promotes confidence, public speaking skills, creative expression, expansion of vocabulary, imagination, relationship building and give and take in relationships, the importance of listening and responding honestly, and of course, laughter, glorious laughter. The gifts of this particular discipline are good for everyone, especially for young people who are still trying to figure out who they are and how to relate to others. In my first visit to the detention center, about halfway through the first class, one of the boys just stopped and he had this enormous smile and wide eyes, and he looked at me and said, "You're hyper and it's contagious." They all obviously enjoyed the activities, and I felt very relieved and delighted by their willing participation and excitement. But when our time was up and they were asked to sit down to wait to be escorted out, the smiles instantly disappeared. The room seemed to go gray and deflate like a punctured balloon. But I know that the positive energy we stirred up that day was real and potentially transformative. I left there that day wondering if I would see all of them again. They come and go, and I simply felt grateful for the time. I still do, every week. Since then, I have seen soft-spoken kids find their voice. I have seen active kids find an outlet and appreciation from a grown-up who is also hyper. And I have enjoyed moments like the time a newcomer turned to the boy next to him after class and said, "I didn't want to do that at first, but that was fun." And I cherish moments like the time a 3-line scene spontaneously turned into a 20-line scene. And I said, "You're getting it!" And we all felt it. Not every class is great. We're humans. We have moods. But they thank me every week, unprompted, at the end of class. And I know that when caring adults from the community take time to share with these kids, it makes a very clear statement to them that they are cared for, valued, and worth it. Across the country, advocates and administrators are working to change the culture of juvenile justice from punitive to rehabilitative. For example, there's a program called Girls Court that provides social services to young female offenders who themselves have been victims of trauma, neglect, and abuse. There are alternative sentencing programs that provide counseling and vocational training. And in addition to academic studies, over half of the juvenile detention centers in the US now provide some sort of supplementary arts program. And evidence is clear that these types of programs have many positive outcomes, like decreases in violent behavior, increases in self-control and cooperation, and a reduction in tension, not only for the participants, but also for staff. In the center I visit, yoga, drawing, financial literacy, an entrepreneurship program, and substance abuse training, substance abuse deterring education are made available. They are doing a great job, and I feel very proud and honored to play even a small part on their team. It is way too easy to allow the out of sight, out of mind mentality to help us ignore what's going on in our prisons, jails, and juvenile detention centers. Too often, it isn't until someone we know and love gets caught up in the system that we be made aware, as I did. Until then, it's just too easy to dismiss those on the inside as criminals who deserve the suffering and deprivation they're experiencing because they broke a law. Yes, criminal activity absolutely should carry a punishment, but no debt to society should be paid by any means that are dehumanizing, cruel, and traumatic. Before my friend Stacey went to prison, I had no idea how inhumane these institutions can be. For me to experience even a little bit of empathy, she once suggested that I spend 23 of 24 hours locked in my bathroom for a weekend, and then imagine what that might feel like for a year or 2 or 5. It occurs to me that this is the future these kids have to look forward to if we don't nurture them and redirect their paths. They need our attention, our love, our forgiveness, and our guidance. We, a caring community, can give them that vital sense of belonging. And we know now it's that sense of connection that diminishes the desires to get high or take dangerous risks, can encourage them to continue doing the next right thing, so that rational thinking becomes not only preferable, but second nature. To the question, what can I do to help? I suggest paying attention to state and local legislation that speaks to issues of juvenile justice. In Nevada last year, AB 180 was passed, the Juvenile Justice Bill of Rights, which doesn't create new rights but codifies existing ones and guarantees that all juvenile offenders be made aware of their rights. Right to state representatives in support of rehabilitative programs for kids. And if fiscal responsibility is your top priority, keep in mind that for every dollar we spend on programs like this now, we potentially save $5 to $10 in the future if these kids avoid getting incarcerated as adults. Seek out books, articles, documentaries about the prison industrial complex and our juvenile justice system. As painful as they are to take in, we need to be informed. And if, like me, you enjoy working with youngsters, get involved. Call your local center, propose a class, or join a youth mentor program. My friend Stacey is now living in sunny Southern California, raising her 3 amazing daughters and mentoring others, including foreign exchange students. The organization that she started on the East Coast is still going strong in the hands of others. And I'll close with this. I think one of the best TED Talks ever given, We Need to Talk About an Injustice, was given by Brian Stevenson. He's a well-respected public interest lawyer and the executive director and founder of the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. He says often that each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. I know that we can share this idea with our youth. We demonstrate to them through our action. We can provide them the second chance that they deserve. We all deserve a second chance. Thank you.